Hello everyone and welcome to another live session at TalentSprint. I am Surabhi. Most of you would have already read in the emails that you got and the teasers that you saw that in this live session we will be discussing questions from the Amcat exam. Now, before I go on to explain to you what the Amcat exam is, let us see how many of us are out there and start the session by greeting each other and saying a hello. So I can already see Mohit is here. Hello, Mohit. I'm waiting to hear a small hi, hello, a little greeting from all of you out there. So Mohit has been nice and gracious enough to say a hello to all of us. Let us see how many more of you are out there. I can see Naveen is also there. Hi, Angel. Okay, now that I've hi Polanki, I think Naveen, you already said a hi. Hello to you once again. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't, like I already mentioned, that in this session we will be discussing questions from the Amcat exam. Hi, Piyush. Now, what is the Amcat exam? Amcat is actually an eligibility test. Now, the first question that will come to your mind is that what is an eligibility test? An eligibility test, an employment eligibility test that Amcat is, an employment eligibility test, boys and girls, is a test that you write, and based on the scores that you get in this test, you are offered a job. There are higher chances of you getting a job. Now, Amcat is one such exam that is used by corporates across the country, and it is a great exam if you want to kickstart your dream IT career. Because the scores that you get in the Amcat exam are taken by more than 1,200 corporates. Yes, boys and girls, you heard me right. More than 1,200 corporates across the country give jobs to freshers based on the scores that they get in the Amcat exam. So without wasting any more of our time, let's start by discussing in today's session some questions that were asked in the Amcat exam. Let's look at our first question for the day. Okay, let us read the first question for the day, boys and girls. Okay, read the following information carefully and answer the questions given below. $B means A is the mother of B. A hashtag means A is the father of B. A@B means A is the husband of B. And a percentage B means A is the daughter of B. Now, if you notice, all these operators, all these symbols are symbolic of a relationship. They are each representing a relationship. I suddenly see a whole stream of hellos on my screen. Hi Shubham, hi Durga, hi Karthik, hi Deshmukh, hi Aditya. Okay, so now we have an equation, an expression in front of us, and we have to find out that what is the relation between two people who are involved in this expression. Okay, let us read the relation once again. We know that dollar symbolizes mother of. Hashtag symbolizes father of. @ symbolizes husband of. And percentage symbolizes daughter of. Now, based on this, let us draw a diagram of the expression that has been given to us. They tell us P@Q, which means that P is the husband, that with P@Q means that P is actually the P@Q, boys and girls, which means that P is actually the husband of Q. So we have P@Q. Means, we know that @ means husband. That means that P is the husband of Q. So which means if P is the husband, P is going to be a male. P is the husband of Q, which means that Q is female. Let's like the relationship here. Second, they tell us Q#M. Q#M, which means they tell us that Q# They tell us, sorry, I'm sorry, Q dollar M. Dollar means mother of, which means that Q is the mother of M. So Q is the mother of M. Let's write the relationship here, mother. Now notice, boys and girls, till now we do not know the gender of M. Let's read the second part of the equation. Let's read the second part of the equation. The second part of the equation is, the last part of the equation is M hashtag T. M hashtag T. Now if you know the last part, hashtag stands for father, which means that M is the father of T, which means that the gender of M is male and M is the father of T. Now notice, boys and girls, that we do not know the gender of T, but interestingly, if you will notice this question, if we go back and read this question properly, we do not need the gender of T to answer this question. We know that P is the husband of Q, because of which P is male and Q is female. We know that Q is the mother of M, which makes Q, obviously Q is female. We know since Q is the wife of P. Now then they tell us that M is that M hashtag T, M is the father of T, which makes M male. Now if you notice that there are 3 generations that we are talking of here. T to M is 1. This is the second generation. So there is 1. T is actually, if you notice, Q is generation 1, M is generation 2, and T is generation 3. And P and Q belong to the same generation, which means that there has to be the relationship of a grandfather or a grandmother. Now, since we have established that, now let us see whether it is maternal or paternal. Now, we know that relations which are from the mother's side are called maternal, and relations that are from the father's side are called paternal. Now, since M is the father, we know that this will be the relationship, that this will be a paternal relationship. Therefore, we can easily eliminate option 3 and 4, both of which are maternal. Now we have to find the relationship between P and T. P is a male, which means that P will be the paternal grandfather, which is option number 2. And I can already see that Mohit and Aditya have got the answer. Great. I'm going to give all of you about another 30 seconds. Look at the question, read the question, try and draw the diagram on your own and see if you have understood the question. And I'm going to wait to get a thumbs up from all of you to see if you have understood the question actually. And then we will move on to the next question. Okay. I am hoping deep down that all of you have understood this question. Vineet says 2. Great, Vineet. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Let's move on to our next question. Now, this question once again is based on the similar relationships. Now, they have given us 4 expressions here, if you notice, and then they have asked us that which expression indicates that R is the sister of H. Now, let us start by drawing a diagram for each of the expressions that have been given to us. Let's start with the first expression. So first expression tells us H dollar D, which means that H is, first expression H dollar D, that H is actually the mother of D. Since H is the mother, she will be a female. H is the mother of D. Till now, the gender of D is not known to us. D at the rate F. So they tell us that D is the husband of F. Since D is the husband, D will be a male. D is the husband of F, which means that F is going to be female. This is the first option whose diagram we are drawing. Then they tell us F hashtag R. Hashtag means father. Now, how can F be the father of R? There is clearly a discrepancy here, if you notice, because we know that F is the wife of D, D is the husband of R. If D is the husband of F, which means that F is a female, and therefore F cannot be the father of R, which means that this relationship does not hold, which means that this option is not correct. Let us try and chalk out the second diagram. Now the second diagram starts with H percentage D. Now H percentage D means that H is the daughter of D. So H is a female, she is the daughter of D. Now the next relationship that we have is D at the rate F, which means that D is actually the husband of F, which means that D is a male, D is the husband of F, F becomes female. Here is the relationship of a husband, here is the relationship of a daughter. Then F, then the third part of the expression says F $R. F $R means that F is the mother of R. F is the mother of R. Okay. Now, if you notice, the gender of R is not known to us here, and we have to find the relationship between R and H. Now, if you look at here, we know that H is the sister of R. Now, irrespective whether R is a brother or a sister, H is going to be the sister. But if you notice, the question says R is the sister. And we cannot determine whether R is going to be the sister or the brother of H, because the gender of R is not known to us, boys and girls. Therefore, again, expression 2 cannot be the answer. Let's plot and see what expression 3 tells us. Now, expression 3 starts with R percentage D. R percentage D means that R is the daughter of D. R is the daughter of D. R is the daughter. Second part says D at the rate F, which means D is the husband of F. So D being the husband becomes male, F being the wife becomes female. Here the relationship is of a husband. Then they tell us F $H. F $H means that F is the mother of B. F $H means that F is the mother. F is the mother of H. F is the mother of H. Now, the minute you look at this diagram, you will say that there is hardly any difference between the second and the third diagram. But look carefully. In the second diagram, H was the daughter of D. Here, R is the daughter of D. Therefore, we can easily say that H and R are brothers and sisters, not knowing H, the gender of H. But irrespective of the fact whether H is male or female, R is, being a female, R is going to be the sister of H. So if you notice that the answer is going to be determined by the gender of R and not by the gender of H. The answer is independent of the gender of H, and from third diagram we can clearly conclude that R is the sister of H. Let's quickly go through this diagram once again. R $D means R is the daughter of D. D at the rate F means D is the husband of F, which means that D becomes male, F becomes female. Then they tell us F $H, which means that F is the mother of H. Now, since they have the same mother and father, which means that they will share the relationship of brother and sister. The question is independent of the gender of H, because we have to tell whether R is the sister, and whether H is her brother or sister, R will be the sister to both of them. Therefore, yes, the third expression does tell us that R is the sister of H. Now, before we move ahead, let us also see what the fourth, let us also try and draw the fourth diagram, just in case it comes up with something interesting too. R $D. R $D means that R is the mother of D. R is the mother of D. The next part says D at the rate F, which means that D is the husband of F, making D to be a male and making F to be a female husband. Here the relationship of a mother. And then the last bit, F #H means that F is the father. Now again, F cannot be the father since F is the wife. Again, this relation does not hold. Therefore, we know that the correct answer here is option 3. I can see that a lot of you have got, I can see that Chinna, Ramesh, Aditya, Bharat, a lot of you have got the third diagram, the third expression as the correct answer, while there are some of you who are still stuck at the second being the correct answer. I request all of you that analyze this diagram carefully. Try and chalk out the diagram of the second and third and see why, like I said, the answer is independent of the gender of H, but it is completely dependent on the gender of R. I'm going to remove these diagrams from the screen and ask you to chalk the diagram out on your own. And in case you are still stuck, please go ahead and ask if you have a doubt. Okay, yes, Chinna Ramesh, the answer is 3, 3, 3, 3, definitely. No doubt about it. Okay. I think, yes, Alkit, the answer is 3. Let's move on to the next question, which is also based on this set of relations only. Okay. Okay, let's look at this question, boys and girls. Okay, they have given us an expression and they have asked us to find out the relationship between F and H. Now, I am going to take a little bit of a break here. I am going to ask all of you to take about 30 to 40 seconds and try and solve this question on your own and get the answer. And then post the next 30-40 seconds, we will discuss the answer. I will just read out the expression for you. F at the rate D, D percentage K, K hashtag H. I'm repeating once again. F at the rate D, D percentage K, K at K hashtag H. Take 30 to 40 seconds, try and solve this question on your own, after which we will discuss this question. Okay, I am waiting for some answers to appear on my chat screen. I'm waiting for some answers to appear on my chat screen, and sadly till now I see none. The clock is ticking away as it is going to tick away in an actual exam. And I see here that someone Vineet says option number 1. Vineet says option number 1. Is Vineet right? Is Vineet wrong? Is someone going to tell us? Deepak says 3. Aditya says 1. I think time for me to jump into the fray and see what the correct answer is by starting to draw the diagram. Okay, so let's start and draw the diagram. F at the rate D means that F at the rate D means that F is the husband of D. F is the husband of D. Now, F is the husband, F will be male and D will be female. Then they tell us D percentage K, which means that D is the daughter of K. Okay, so I am, rather than usually drawing a generation up, I am going to draw it below in this case since there is no space in my screen. So we know that D is the daughter of K. We know that D is the daughter of K. Then they tell us K hashtag H, which means that K is the father of H. K being the father will become a male, and they tell us that K is the father of H. Now notice here the gender of H is not known to us, boys and girls. Now they tell us that we have to establish the relationship between F and H. Now I like a little bit of a little bit of cheekiness that Aditya has saying. I guess since gender cannot be determined, let's actually see what the answer will be. We know that D is the sister of H. You can easily say that D is the sister of H. Now, irrespective of the fact whether H is a male or a female, D will always be the sister of H, because D is the daughter of K, and K is the father of H. Since D is the sister's husband is always a brother-in-law. Now, whether you are a male or a female, your sister's husband is always your brother-in-law. Therefore, like some of you have said, like Chinna Ramesh has said, Mohit has said, the answer will be one brother-in-law. Let's quickly go through this again as to how we got this answer. Now, let's look at here. They tell us that F is the husband of D, which means that F is a male and D is a female. Then they tell us that B is the daughter of K, which again reiterates the fact that D is a female. Then they tell us that K is the father of H, which means that K is a male. Since D and H have the same father, D and H may become brother sister depending on what is the gender of H. But irrespective of the gender of H, D will always be a sister to H, which means that F will be the brother-in-law of H because he is the sister's husband. Okay, great. I am hoping that most of you have understood this question. Aditya here has another perspective. Let's say what he says. But F and H lie in the same line, so the only relation is brother. Let me specify, when we put a couple of relations in the same line, it just represents the fact that they belong to the same generation. They can be friends, they can be brother, sister, they can be husband, wife, because if you notice, F and D have also been put into the same line, and F and D are definitely not brother and sister, they are husband and wife. So when we put something in the same line, it is indicative of the fact that they belong to the same generation. It looks like most of you have understood the question, which is actually really great. Now, before I move on to the next set of questions, there is something that I would just like to highlight when you're solving questions on blood relations. Whenever you are solving questions on blood relations, please remember to draw a line diagram, a tree diagram, whatever suits you. Because if you don't draw a diagram, it is going to be very, very difficult for you to be able to understand what are the actual relations and actually make some cross relations. Also, the second and probably actually the most important thing, do not presume genders. Do not presume that if this is the sister, if one is the sister or one is the brother of the other, that by default they are going to be, the other person is a male or a female. So therefore, do not presume genders and draw your line diagrams the minute you start reading the question. As you proceed ahead by reading the question, remember that you draw as you read ahead. Okay, I hope that you have got this little tip that I just gave you. And with this, let us move ahead to the next set of our questions for this session. Okay, let us look at our next question for the day, boys and girls. Okay, the front door of my house faces east. Wow. I walk out of my back door and walk 2 kilometers, then turn right and walk another 2 kilometers, then turn left and walk 4 kilometers, then turn right again and walk 2 kilometers. In which direction am I facing with respect to the starting point? Now, the golden rule of every time you do a question on directions is to actually start by drawing the default direction diagram, and that is exactly what we are going to do here. The default direction 2 kilometers. Now, if you notice his final, okay, the video has stopped. Someone has just told us. Let's quickly check if there has been a problem. The video is working from my end, so it looks okay. Have you been able to reconnect to the chat, boys and girls? Okay, it says that the video has connected once again. Great, so let us start. Okay, now if you notice the final position is here. Let's quickly discuss. House is east facing. Okay, it is no longer live. Just give me a second. I'm quickly going to get this sorted and ensure that everything is taken care of. Boys and girls, please cooperate with us. We are trying to fix this. Just give us some time. We're saying that the video is not showing. Okay. Is it working? I'm hoping that it is working for all of us. Is it? Is it not? Okay, looks like the video is working. Thank you, Aditya, for understanding that glitches do happen when you do something like that. Great. Let us start with this question again. Quickly discuss. All right. So his house is east facing. He gets out from the back door, which is actually west. He walks 2 kilometers straight. Then he takes a right. He walks 2 kilometers. Takes a left, walks 4 kilometers, and then he again takes a right and he walks 2 kilometers. And this, boys and girls, is his final position. This, boys and girls, is his final position. Okay, so if you notice his final position, he is actually in the north direction. Now he says that in which direction is he facing? If you compare with the default diagram, he is actually in the north direction. Now, okay, now if you compare with the default diagram, he is actually in the north direction. Now, if you compare, like I said, he's in the north direction. And if I remember, even before I started explaining the question, some of you had actually said that C northwest is the answer. And yes, C northwest is the answer. Yes, Vineet, your answer is correct. C northwest is indeed the answer to this question. One of the very simple questions in direction. House is east, moves out of the back door, which is the west, walks 2 kilometers straight, takes a right, takes a left, takes another right, and then reaches this as the final spot, which is in the north direction. Okay, I'm going to hope that most of you have actually understood this question. If you notice, some of you are saying only north, but and most of you are saying northwest. It's not going to be north, because if you notice, he has actually started moving from here and he is somewhere here. If you compare this with the default diagram, he started from somewhere here and he is somewhere here, which puts him in the north northwest direction, boys and girls. It puts him in the northwest direction. Okay, I think we can move on to our next question for the day. Let's move on to our next question for the day. Okay, this is our next question of the day. Now, I personally found this very interesting and therefore I decided to put this in. The figure that you can all see on your screen consists of 25 squares. It's a square with 5 by 5, with columns and rows 5 by 5, therefore 25 squares. If the figure was folded along the diagonal to form a square, then 26 minus the number in the square, which would coincide with the square containing 26, would be. Now, read the question again. They're telling us that here is a square 5 by 5. If we fold the square along its diagonal, what is the number going to be behind the square that has the number 26? And if we subtract that number from 26, what will be the answer? Now, if you notice, we all know that all quadrilaterals have two diagonals. Now, here the diagonal is, there are two possibilities of diagonals to exist. Diagonal 1 may run from 7 to 31. If we take diagonal 1, that may run from 7 to 31. If we go ahead and fold it and make it into a triangle, the square that will come behind the number 26 will be the number 10. And if we subtract 26 minus 10, boys and girls, we get 16. Now, 16 is option number 1. 16 is option number 1. Now, we all know that there is a possibility of an other diagonal also. So, let me clear out this diagonal and then draw the other diagonal. Okay. Now, the other diagonal that we can draw from 27 to 11. 26 being here. In this case, 28 will be the number behind 26. And 26 minus 28 is minus 2. If you remember, initially we had done 26 minus 10 and 26 minus 10 and we had got 16, because at that time 7 to 31 was the diagonal that we were referring to, and there was number 10. So if you notice from our options, option number 3, because they say either 1 or 2, depending on the way along, depending on the diagonal along which this paper is folded. So I hope you kind of liked this question, because it's a really easy question, and like Aditya says, a simple, easy but slightly tricky question where the trick lies in the way you actually read the question and not forget to analyze the different possibilities that are possible. Now, with this, boys and girls, with this, I would just like to bring to your notice one thing. Okay. With this, I would just like to bring to your notice one very important thing about problems in the logical reasoning section. You must remember that most of the problems in the logical reasoning section are actually really simple. The trick lies in the language, because calculations are never difficult. It is the language, it is the way the question has been formulated. Therefore, remember to read between the lines. And like I said, never presume anything in a logical reasoning question, and be open to the various options. Because the minute you look at a question like this, it is highly possible, you just fold the square along one diagonal and you go like, oh, there my answer is. But little do you realize that there is another diagonal also along which you can fold the square. So remember, every time you solve questions on logical reasoning, there is the option of there being more than one possibility for any given situation. With this little trick, let us move on to our next question for the day. Okay, let us move on to this question for the day, boys and girls. They tell us that there are 4 friends, Chaman, Sanjeev, Bhupesh. Each plays one outdoor game and one indoor game. The outdoor games are volleyball, hockey, cricket, and badminton. And the indoor games are chess, cards, ludo, and carom. Now they tell us someone does not play one game, one plays the other, one does not play the other. So let us actually start by chalking this out once again in a diagram, because like I said, diagrams hold the key in logical reasoning questions. So these are the 4 friends that we are talking about here. There's Hemant, there is Chaman, there is Sanjeev, and then there is Bhupesh. And we are talking of 2 categories of games. We are talking about outdoor games and we are talking about indoor games. Now let us start by reading the first statement. Sanjeev does not play volleyball or hockey. So Mr. Sanjeev, no volleyball for the gentleman and also no hockey for him. Then they tell us Bhupesh does not play hockey. Mr. Bhupesh, sorry, no hockey for you. They also tell us that he does not play any game that starts with C, which means that in terms of outdoor games, he will not play cricket. So no cricket for him. And let's go on to the indoor games. There is chess, there is cards, there is ludo, and there is carom. Out of these 4, there are 3 options that start with C, and this gentleman, Mr. Bhupesh, does not play any game starting with C, which means that Bhupesh actually plays Ludo. So, indoor game we have got that Bhupesh plays Ludo. Let's go on to the next statement. They tell us the hockey player plays cards too. We know that one amongst Hemant and Chaman will play hockey, but till now we are not sure that who will play hockey. Then let's go to the next statement. Chaman does not play hockey or carom. So Mr. Chaman, no hockey for you. Also, no carom for you. Okay. And they tell us no hockey and no carom. Now, if you notice from this, we can easily say that Hemant is the guy who plays hockey, because hockey is not played by Bhupesh, hockey is not played by Sanjeev, and hockey is also not played by Chaman, which means that Hemant is the man who plays hockey. Now, if you notice, the third statement clearly tells us that the hockey person plays cards, which means that Hemant is the guy who plays cards, right? So they tell us Hemant is the guy who plays cards. Now, let us notice. Let us see, they tell us that Chaman does not play hockey or carom, which means that the only game that he can actually technically play here is the game of chess. While there are 4 games, cards is already played by Hemant, Ludo is played by Bhupesh, carom as a game is a game that he does not play, so chess is the only game left. It means that Chaman plays chess. Now, it is very easy from here to derive that what game does Sanjeev play. Cards is done, chess is done, Ludo is done. We know that Sanjeev is the guy, who plays carom. So Sanjeev is the guy who plays carom. Now with indoor games done, let's come to outdoor games. If Sanjeev plays carom, he cannot play cricket because that is the last statement. Sanjeev plays carom, he cannot play cricket, so the only game left out for this gentleman is badminton. So he actually plays badminton. Okay, now we know, if you notice, we have been able to find the games for 2 of them. Hemant we know plays hockey, Sanjeev we know plays badminton. Now if you notice, there are only 2 games to be placed, volleyball and cricket. Volleyball and cricket are the only 2 games. Now cricket is a game that Bhupesh does not play, which means that Chaman is the guy who plays cricket and Bhupesh is the guy who plays volleyball. Now that we have exactly found out who plays what, it is going to be extremely easy for us to answer any question that is going to be asked on this entire puzzle. Great. Let's see what is the first question that is asked on this puzzle. Who plays carom? Very easy. We can easily say that carom is played by third option, Sanjeev. Now, I am a little worried here looking at your answers on the screen because all of you have said that carom is played by Hemant. Now, I am a little scared and it gives me a thought that I should actually draw out the entire puzzle for you once again. And without giving it a second thought, I am going to do exactly this. Wipe out my screen absolutely clean and once again draw out the diagram, boys and girls. Let's discuss this diagram once again. We know that there are four friends. The four friends are Hemant, Shaman, Sanjeev and Bhupesh. Now, what are the two sets of games? We are talking about outdoor games and we are talking about indoor games. Let us read the first statement. They tell us Sanjeev does not play volleyball or hockey. Mr. Sanjeev, no volleyball for you and also no hockey for you. Then they tell us that Mr. Bhupesh does not play hockey. Mr. Bhupesh, sorry, no hockey for you. Then comes the interesting condition where they tell us Bhupesh does not play any game that starts with C. So Bhupesh cannot play cricket. And if you look at the list of the indoor games, there is chess, cards, ludo and carom. 4 outdoor games out of which 3 start with C, which means Bhupesh can play only ludo. Great. Now let us go to the next statement. They tell us that Chaman does not play hockey or carom. Chaman, no hockey for you. Also, no carom for you. No hockey and no carom for Chaman. Therefore, from here, if you notice, we can easily conclude that Hemant is the hockey player because hockey is not played by Bhupesh, Sanjeev or Chaman. So, Hemant, your hockey. Enjoy playing hockey. Now, they tell us, if you notice, if Chaman does not play carom, we know that Chaman does not play carom means that Chaman does not play carom, boys and girls, and we know that there are only 2 other games out there that are chess and cards, and they clearly tell us that the hockey player is the guy who plays cards. That means Hemant plays cards. Now, with cards and ludo taken, knowing that Chaman does not play carom, we can easily conclude from this that Chaman is the guy who plays chess. Now, if Chaman is the guy who plays chess, carom being the only game left, is the game that Sanjeev is going to play. Now, let us focus on the outdoor games. If Sanjeev plays carom, he cannot play cricket because that is what the last statement says. The carom player does not play cricket. Sanjeev plays carom, he does not play cricket, which means that Sanjeev plays badminton because we know from the given conditions out of the 4 given games, 3 are games that are not played by him. Now, let's come to Bhupesh. We know Bhupesh doesn't play hockey. We know Bhupesh doesn't play cricket and badminton is played by Sanjeev. Therefore, volleyball is the game that is going to be played by Bhupesh. Now, coming to Hemant and Chaman, we know Hemant plays hockey. There is only 1 game left for Chaman to play, and that is the game of cricket. Okay. Now, before we move ahead to actually go and discuss the questions, I am quickly going to discuss this puzzle once more by reading out and explain to you exactly why we prescribed a certain game to a certain person. Okay, Sanjeev does not play volleyball or hockey. Okay, Bhupesh does not play hockey or any other game that starts with C. So Bhupesh does not play hockey, he cannot play cricket in outdoor games, And Alok, like you asked, why only Ludo? Because it clearly says Bhupesh does not play any game with C. And out of this, that starts with the alphabet C. And out of the 4 indoor games that are mentioned to us, only one indoor game does not start with the alphabet C, and that is the game of Ludo. Therefore, Ludo is played by Bhupesh. Now, the hockey player must play cards. We know that. Then they tell us Chaman does not play hockey, also he does not play carom. Now, Chaman does not play hockey, he does not play carom. From this, we can easily conclude that Chaman has to play some other game. And then, since we know that hockey is not played by Chaman, Sanjeev or Bhupesh, hockey is going to be played by only and only Hemant. Now, if you notice, the third statement says that the hockey player plays cards. So since Hemant is playing hockey, he is also going to play cards. Therefore, Hemant is sealed. We know what are the 2 games that Hemant is playing. Now, we know, if you notice from here, that Chaman, we know, cannot play cards, he cannot play Ludo, and he does not play carom. So the only game left for him to play here is chess. Now, if Hemant is playing cards, Chaman is playing chess, Bhupesh is playing Ludo, the only game that Sanjeev can play is carom. So from here, you are rest assured about your indoor games. Indoor games are taken care of here. Now, if you notice that they tell us that the person who plays carom does not play cricket, which means that Sanjeev cannot play cricket. Sanjeev cannot play 3 sports: volleyball, hockey, cricket. Only one sport left, which is badminton. Therefore, Sanjeev, boys and girls, plays badminton. Now, there are 2 people left whom we have to ascribe a sport to, that is to Chaman and to Bhupesh. Now, we know that hockey is played by someone else, badminton is played by someone else, and cricket is what Bhupesh does not play. Therefore, Bhupesh is going to play volleyball and Chaman is going to play cricket. Now, this time I really hope that you have all been able to understand. Before we go ahead to answer questions on this puzzle, please take another 30 seconds, read, match, plot, plot. See if you are able to read the question, you are able to match it to what we have drawn, and you are able to plot the diagram on your own. And once you have done that in about 30 to 40 seconds, we are going to move ahead and see who plays which game. We are going to see who plays which game. Okay, let us see. So who plays carom? We know that carom is played by Sanjeev, option 3. Right, boys and girls, I hope that all of you have got this one, that carom is played by Sanjeev. And I'm now going to move on to the next question. Okay, the next question, here it comes. The next question asks us, which outdoor game does Bhupesh play? Let's go to Bhupesh. We know that Bhupesh is the guy who plays volleyball. So 7, option number 1. Volleyball is the game that is outdoor game that is played by Bhupesh. Time to once again move on to the next question based on this puzzle. Okay, so they ask us who plays cards. So boys and girls, once again we go back to the diagram that we have plotted. Cards are played by Mr. Hemant. Yes, Bharat and Vineet. Cards are played by Mr. Hemant. Let's go on to the last question, which is based on this puzzle. What are the 2 games that Chaman plays? Chaman plays, we know Chaman plays cricket and he plays chess. Therefore, the answer is option. Therefore, the answer here, boys and girls, is option number 4. I agree this question was tricky, it was long, it could have been a little irritating, but I hope that all of you did get the answer to this question. Okay, now there's just one thing that I would like to bring to your notice about questions that are asked in such puzzles. Usually what happens is that whenever we see a question that is a puzzle in a competitive exam, whether you're writing Amcat, Co-Cubes, E-Litmus, any of the exams that you're writing, we get very excited and we start reading the question. We start plotting the diagram with a pen and paper. And then, we leave it midway. We're like, oh God, this is too confusing. Let's just not solve it. Who's going to do it? Yeah. So much time it's going to take. I'll probably never get the answer. But you must remember that if you are able to solve this question, if you are able to get your puzzle in place, usually a puzzle like this has 3 to 4 questions that clearly depend on it. So even though you may have to spend, initially you may get irritated, that the average time you spend on a question is something between 30 to 45 seconds. Here, forget about answering the question. The diagram itself is taking you about 45 to 50 seconds, but don't get irritated. Solve it with the concentration, because once you have got your puzzle, the following 3 and 4 questions will happen in a jiffy. Okay, so I hope you are not going to be scared of puzzles anymore next time you read them in a competitive exam, but will actually go ahead to solve them. With this, let us move on to the next few questions that I have scheduled and selected for the day. Okay. Okay, so I'm sure all of you can see 3 cubes on your screen. Let's read the question. Study the 3 different positions of a cube given below, numbers 1 to 6 written on its faces. Which number occurs on the face opposite to 2? Which number occurs on the face opposite to 2? Same cube, 3 different positions that they have shown to us, and we have to say which number will come opposite to the number 2 in the cube. Okay. All right. Now, if you notice, this is 6, this is 3, this is 2. From this cube, easily we can get the position of 2. We know that when 6, 3, 2 are placed in a L shape. 6 is at the vertex, 3 is at the top, and 2 is at the bottom. So these are the various combinations, in which 6, 3, 2 can actually occur. 6, 3, 2 can also be like this. These are the ways in which 6, 3, 2 can occur. Now, let us go on to this. Now, if you notice in the second diagram, 6 is here, 3 is here. You know that 2 will be at the face of the cube that is behind 5. The face of the cube that is behind the number 5. And like most of you have got it, the answer here is C, the number 5. The first diagram of the cube holds the answer to this, and interestingly, you don't even need to go to the third cube to see what your answer to this question will be, boys and girls. Okay, I am hoping that most of you have got the answer to this question, and with this, let's move on to the next question for the day. Okay. Let's read our question. In the following problem, there is 1 question and 3 statements, 1, 2, 3, and the below question. You have to decide whether the data given in the statements is sufficient to answer the question. Read all the statements carefully and find out the probable pair which can be sufficient to answer the question. Now, these questions, boys and girls, are what we call questions on data sufficiency. Why data sufficiency? Because a certain data is given to you, and based on the data that is given to you, you have to analyze and find out whether that data is sufficient to answer this question or not. Okay. Let's go on and see what our 3 statements that are our data are. They tell us 5 people A, B, C, D are sitting in a row. Let's just draw 5A, 3, 4, 5. So 5 people A, B, C, D are sitting in a row. They tell us that B is sitting between E and C. So let's just, draw the little parts of the diagram here. B is between E and C. Now, E and C can both be at either places. But then they tell us B is to the right of E. They tell us B is to the right of E, which means E comes here, boys and girls, and C comes here. Then they tell us D is between A and E. D is between A and E. So E is already here and there is A. So we have easily found what the correct alignment is. A, D, E, B, C. And like Vineet says, yes, E is the person who will be sitting in the middle. But here, interestingly, we don't have to say who is sitting in the middle, but this is a question on data sufficiency where we have to say what amount of data was sufficient for us to solve these questions. So if you notice, we used all the three statements, and like Aditya says, the answer is going to be D. Statement 1, 2, and 3 were all needed for us to be able to reach the seating arrangement and find out who was sitting together. Yes, we need 1, 2, 3 together, which is option number D. Now, let us move on to the next question and see what our question is. Okay, once again, boys and girls, this is a question on data sufficiency. Like I said, statements are given, then there are some conditions given. You have to see whether the data that is given to you is sufficient to answer the question that has been asked. Some gardens are parks, some parks are areas. Okay, so let's plot the diagram. Some gardens are parks. These are my gardens, these are my parks, gardens and parks. Some parks are areas. Now, the minute they tell us that some parks are areas, there is a possibility of more than one diagram that is possible for this situation. Now, what are the three ways? Now, they tell us some areas are parks. Now, they tell us some areas are parks. So, therefore, area may or may not share anything in common with gardens. So if area does not share anything in common with garden, this is the first option that will be there. Second, if area does share something in common with garden, whether it shares only the part that is shared by parks or does it share something else. So the second possibility here is of this diagram. What is the third possibility? The third possibility is that area shares something with both garden and park and also individual. So this is the third diagram if you notice, boys and girls. So here what is the answer? They tell us conclusion, at least some areas are parks. Some areas are parks is something that we can conclude from all the three statements. But no garden is the area that is there only in the first diagram. Therefore, we cannot come to this conclusion and we can only come to the first conclusion. And like some of you have already said, Vineet has said, Preetham has said that only conclusion number 1 follows. Okay, boys and girls, with this question done, let us move on to our last question for the day and see what the last question for the day is. Okay, this is our last question for the day. Let us see. In a certain code, 123 is written as bright little boy, 145 means tall big boy, 637 means beautiful little flowers. Which digits in that language mean bright? So if you notice, in the first and the second code, boy is the word that we have in common and the number that we have in common is 1, which means that 1 is equal to boy. Then let's again read the third statement, beautiful little flower. Now little is a word that is common in the first and the third statement, and the number that is common here is 3. So which means that 3 stands for little. Now, if I go back to the first code, the only word for which I do not have a code is bright, and the only number left is 2, which means that 2 is equal to bright. And therefore, the answer here is option number 2, which is for the word bright. Yes, Vineet, Preetam, Bharat, Kumar, all of you have got the correct answer. That was a really simple question for us to wind up our class for the day. And with this, boys and girls, we come to the end of our session for the day. I hope that most of you understood the questions that we were talking about. And for those of you who are interested in writing the Amcat section, the Amcat exam, which is a great employment eligibility test, you can always come down to Hyderabad. If you are in and around Hyderabad, you can come down to our office in Gachibowli, in Ameerpet, in Sikandrabad, and in Dilshad Nagar, and join our specific, very interesting and very industry tailor-made programs that will help you to kickstart your career in the IT sector. With this, I sign off for the day, and I hope you guys had a great time. And keep attending these live classes, which are held on every Friday, free of cost, exclusively for you guys. Every Friday, 6 to 7 is when we meet you virtually. Bye, boys and girls. See you in the next class. Take care.